District Board of Directors on Wednesday, June 18th, 2025 at 6:01 p.m. Roll call. Chair Siebold is present. Vice Chair Lewis is absent. Secretary Treasurer McCloskey.
Present.
Board Member Maynard. Board Member Dominguez.
Present.
We'll rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And our land acknowledgement. Every community owes its existence and vitality to generations from around the world who contributed their hopes, dreams, and energy to making the history that led to this moment. Some were brought here against their will, some were drawn to leave their distant homes in hope of a better life, and some have lived on this land for more generations than can be counted. Truth and acknowledgement are critical to building mutual respect and connection across all barriers of heritage and difference. We begin this effort to acknowledge what has been buried by honoring the truth. In Central Oregon, we are standing on the ancestral lands of the Wasco, Warm Springs, and Paiute people. We pay respects to their elders past and present. Okay, next up, we are looking for a motion on the agenda. We do have 2 additional agenda items that can be considered if anyone would care to move for an adopted agenda. Adding in an agenda item 9, considering approving a draft letter to Pacific Power, encouraging the reestablishment of a Madras satellite office. And proposed agenda item number 9, considering accepting the May 20, 2025 election results and authorizing the executive director to sign the acceptance form. If anyone would care to so move.
I'll make a motion that we accept the amended agenda as proposed.
Thank you, Jean. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Frank. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Correspondence.
Board members, there was no correspondence in the posted board agenda, but in your pile of amendments behind your board packet, there is an email correspondence with a community member who spoke during the June 4th budget committee meeting number 2 with a request to amend the minutes to better reflect the comments that she made during the public comment section of the meeting. I went ahead and took her recommended language and plugged it into the amended minutes that are also in your pile of documentation behind the official board packet. So I wanted to include that as part of the record for the request and also responding to the request with the amended minutes.
The board members want to take time to read through that now, wait until the motion for the consent agenda. Is there a preference?
Didn't compare it to the old one, but
I'm seeing Irby reading, so we'll give him a minute. Yeah.
Yeah, I read this. I believe this is what she sent to me earlier.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm all for this.
Okay, next up on our agenda is public hearing for fiscal year 2025-26 budget adoption. This is an opportunity for public input on the approved fiscal year 2024-25 budget, as noted in the LB1 published in the Madras Pioneer on June 11th, 2025. Do we have any members of the public who would care to speak? I'm looking at the one person in the room who is indicating no.
There's nobody online.
And there is no one online, so we will move on to visitor section public comment, wherein members of the public are welcome to speak to the board of directors during this time. They should sign in at the beginning of the meeting to be recognized by the board chair. Speakers are asked to limit their comments to 3 minutes. Looking at the one person in the room who is indicating no.
Ashley said
Okay, perfect. Thank you. No for you. Okay. And still no one online, so we will move on to agenda item 8, considering approving a draft letter to Pacific Power encouraging the reestablishment of a Madras satellite office,
Just realized I
which
should.
is quite timely in
Right.
light of the power outage today that is
Our-
impacting me at my house.
Yes, so board members, the county administrator sent an email to all the special districts encouraging us to consider sending this letter of support, encouraging Pacific Power to reopen their Madras satellite office. The reasoning is the closest office to Madras is in Bend, and so if there's a power outage in Jefferson County, it will take an hour for anyone to respond to it, which means it's a minimum of an hour plus to restore power. For us, if our power is out for more than an hour, then we have to close for at least 6 hours so we can get our water through the system once it turns back on. And so it's a pretty significant impact to our operations if they don't have someone that can respond sooner. So I felt moved to bring the letter to you all, especially since we had a meeting tonight, to consider authorizing the board chair to sign it on behalf of the board.
And when they say they're closing their office, they're referring to the construction crew that used to be up here near Keith Manufacturing.
I believe so.
They've been on for quite a few years. Yeah, favor of submitting the letter, doesn't hurt to ask, I guess.
As am I.
I move to submit the letter.
Thank you, Frank.
Second that,
Thank you, Jean. All in favor?
Right.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Okay, next up, considering accepting the May 2025, wow, election results and authorizing the executive director to sign the acceptance form.
So board members, this is an email that I got from Kate Zemke today. I am considered the election official apparently for the district, and it's our practice to have the board accept and acknowledge and accept election results before I sign the forms.
Just a formality because Kate has certified it.
Yeah.
I'll make the motion to accept the election results as presented.
Thank you, Jean.
Authorizing the executive director to sign the acceptance form.
Is there a second? Thank you, Frank. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Congratulations, Frank, Becky, and Irby. Financial reports are next on our agenda.
Okay, board members. So you have in your packet the May, let's see, what did I do? Usually I put the balance sheet first, but it looks like I put the profit and loss statement first for the month. Just trying to keep everybody, including myself, on our toes. You can see that property taxes came in at 15.8% of budget. That's because of the Pacific Court adjustment that happened, utility roll adjustment. And so that hit us significantly this month. And so our total income was at 57% of budget. And you can see that our expenses were at 90% of budget. And so this was another one of those months where we're upside down on expenses versus revenues. When you look at our budget to actual for the fiscal year, we're still okay. I'm still projecting that we're probably going to end the fiscal year negative like we did last year. But we've taken, I think, steps to correct that for the future with the reductions that were approved in the budget. But when you look at our revenues to expenses, we're at about 85% of income and about 88% expenses when we look at budget to actuals. Then the cash flow analysis is where it shows, the Jason cash flow analysis is where it shows us probably being negative about $20,000 at the end of the fiscal year. And what that tells me is we made some really good steps because we should be negative about 40,000 because that's the money we had to transfer from the general fund to the debt service fund to cover that final payment. And so we've saved some money this year as well, is what that tells me. But those projections are in your packet as well. Jean, did you get a chance to look at the May?
I have it right here, yeah.
And do you have questions?
I just have a few things. You wanna go more now or
No, we could do it later. I just wondered if you had anything
anything to
that you
share
wanted to share with the
everybody?
board.
No, I don't think so. Couple questions I had, you can answer these off the top of your head. The MAC Trust grant use, the 10,000, do they have that earmarked for specific?
Mhm.
And that scholarships, correct?
No, that was separate from
Oh, that
scholarships.
one was separate from scholarships.
Yep.
That was to help us out with maintenance.
That helped us out. So we got new flags for backstroke flags. We got 2 scoreboards. We bought something
So
else.
I put supplies then.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was more
For
supplies
sports,
for
yeah.
like recreation. We got some stuff for swim meets, youth sports.
Then the foster family grant, 3,000, was that a specific use?
That was for junior swim team.
Because when I'm looking at that, savings, and didn't we transferred some of that, yeah. That was part of the loan.
Yes.
We loaned to ourselves, yeah,
Yep.
okay, but we'll put that back because we will, okay.
Yep. And
March payroll loan of 10,000.
and part of it too is it's better for us to keep that money in LGIP because it earns between 4.5% to 6% interest. And if it's in our savings account, it earns 4 cents a month or something like that. So that's one of the items on my list for July is to bring an action for the board to consider to leave those funds in LGIP rather than moving them back and paying back the loan to our savings account so that we can accrue more interest on those funds.
And you did note that there wasn't a savings statement included. When that comes in, you'll drop it into that.
Yes, so that Umpqua Bank only does a savings statement once a quarter. So on the off months, I just print out
I'll probably ask you this every month.
it's fine.
Okay, that's all good.
You haven't asked that in a while.
Okay.
That's it for financials in case anyone has any questions.
No. Okay. Doesn't look like there are any questions. So next up on our agenda, considering approval of the consent agenda. To note, we do have an amended budget committee meeting minutes for June 4th, 2025. If anyone would care to make such a motion, either including or not including those amended minutes.
Move we approve the amended minutes.
Thank you, Frank. Is there a second?
Yeah, I'll second it.
Thank
Yeah.
you, Jean. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Next up, considering approving resolution 2025-10, adopting the fiscal year 2025-26 budget, making appropriations, imposing the tax, and categorizing the tax.
So board members, the resolution adopting the budget is in your packet. This is the document that gives us legal authority to spend money. It's required by the state that it's adopted by June 30th, and then it gets passed on to the assessor. I fill out an LB 50, which also goes to the assessor's office with this document, and that's how they assess the taxes. What you see here reflects the budget that was approved by the budget committee on June 4th. And yeah, I think that's all I need to report.
Are there any questions on this? Sorry, Jean.
Yeah, it's just gonna ask any questions. Yeah, I'll make the motion that we adopt resolution 2025-10, adopting the 2025-26 budget.
Thank you, Jean. Is there a second?
A second.
Thank you, Irvi. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Next up, we have considering approval of the following updates based on May 28th, 2025 board direction. First up, we have considering approval of a revised fiscal year 2025-26 salary wage scale. We hit them one by one.
Sure.
Okay.
So the wage scale has been amended to reflect that the 2 salaried positions that were included in the reduction in force decision by the board are moved from salaried to hourly. on the wage scale. And then also this amended wage scale reflects the approved FTE in the budget versus what was approved in the proposed budget. Because remember, the budget, there were adjustments made through the budget committee process based on board direction. So this shows that the original approved scale was based on the original proposed budget with 4.75 FTE, and the revised approved and now adopted budget is 3.75 FTE. So those are the changes on this document.
My only question on this, Courtney, was, do we actually need to strike out those salaried positions? Wouldn't they just stay there floating around so that when we go back?
We can certainly leave them in there.
Yeah.
I mean, I think we have to strike them out because the positions become hourly now, but then next year when you adopt your wage scale, depending on the situation, you could leave it hourly or go back to salary.
Yeah.
Because you update this every spring, so.
You know, and you know, there's a lot of positions on there that we don't fill, probably will never fill. Yeah, so really what we're looking at is the FTEs.
Mhm.
Yeah. So do you guys want to approve these one at a time or just work through all of them?
We'll go one at a time. Okay, would anyone care to make a motion on item 11A, approval of a revised fiscal year 2025-26 salary wage scale?
I move.
Thank you, Frank. Is there a second?
Second,
Thank you, Jean. All in favor?
aye.
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 Okay.
Oh, sorry.
No, it's fine. I just wanted to make sure.
Yes.
Okay, any opposed? Motion passes unanimously.
I said it in my head.
It's going too quickly.
Yeah.
Old guy.
Okay,
For me.
11B, consider approval of a revised executive director job description.
So based on those changes, our attorney recommended updating the job description as well. I will say that this job description does not reflect the new duties that are going to be required of the executive director position effective October 1st, when the recreation director position is gone. So that includes supervising all the recreation staff and some other things as well. So I'm probably gonna have to bring this back to you again. I just didn't have the time to make those adjustments. And so for purposes of tonight, it was just changing it to hourly so it's consistent with the wage scale and with the direction of the board.
So you didn't print that out, so I know I saw it in the original.
Oh, it should be in the packet if it's not there. I'm sorry. It should be near the back of your packet. After all the 1,000 minutes. Keep going.
Resolution.
Keep going.
adopting the budget.
Keep
It's like
going.
8 pages from the end.
Say after all the budget worksheets, after the LB.
Executive director.
There it is. There it is.
Annual to hourly, the full-time. To full-time, no, makes sense.
Mhm.
Nothing else changed in the job description.
Not yet.
So when you. So we wouldn't approve this now, we would approve it now,
Mhm.
and then when you submit the entire job description in the 23rd of July meeting, then we would have to revise it.
I'm gonna work on it over, I probably won't bring you a revised one until August or September, because that's when the position that I'm absorbing goes away. I mean, ultimately, I'm responsible for everything anyway, so whether or not it's reflected in the job description, I'm still responsible for it. I think that the more important piece is the hourly versus salary, because this is a part of my employment contract and it has to be consistent.
I'll make the motion that we approve the revised executive director job description, which is nothing more than salary changes at this time.
Thank you, Jean. Is there a second?
Also,
Thank you, Frank. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Third up, 11C, consider approval of amendment number 3 to the Executive Director's 2023-2026 employment contract, and I can kick this one off. So we've been working with our legal counsel, Bryant Loveland Jarvis. And unfortunately, at this point, there are additional changes that Jeremy would like to make. He will have those to us either tomorrow or Friday. One important thing to note is we do not have in the agreement under compensation 2.1, we do not have a per hour dollar amount. So the board needs to discuss and note a dollar amount in order to have a working draft that we can discuss to present to Courtney, knowing that there will be changes coming from council on substantive things.
We
Yes.
have the dollar job description.
Yep.
Is that incorrect?
It is not listed here. So if we want to plug in $57 from the job description into
I think it's- Yeah.
No,
the agreement,
no. I don't know if I can say what we discussed in the executive meeting.
What exactly, the one we had during budget process?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So when we talked about her going to 30 hours, we also talked about her going to the middle of the pay scale, which would be 62.50. For my calculation.
So the $57 an hour is based on the annual of the 118, correct?
Yeah,
That is the
Correct.
starting salary for the
Yeah.
position. Correct.
Based on the one.
yes. And then mid-range for the adopted wage scale is roughly 130. Divided by 2020 hours.
There's an analysis sheet in the back of all the things.
That was the sheet of.
At the very back of all of the extra stuff that was not in the original board packet. And if the board wouldn't mind, I would like to present
please.
my side of the negotiation
Yes.
because my contract does not allow the board to make a change to my contract without me agreeing to it.
Yes.
So I want to present an analysis to you and something to consider. And then I'm 100% happy to talk about it and because I love this job and I want to be here. So in the back of your packet, there's a sheet that looks like this. And I stole yours.
Jean's got a forest to wait through.
It's the only one with color on
It's on this.
It's at the back of the. supplement.
Yes.
It's gotta be in this.
It's going to be in
Bingo.
this.
Bingo.
So on the top right, so you see all the history of all the total compensation. So total compensation is salary, health benefits, opt out of health and retirement. So if you go over to the original 25-26 budget, based on the wage scale and doing a bona fide factor analysis, which is something that's required for pay equity, based on the requirements of the job description and my resume, I placed myself after conversation with the board chair at 138,850, which is what was in the original proposed budget. With the approved budget going down to 30 hours, total compensation was budgeted at 121,200. And
I have to ask you a question.
yes,
Back to the 138,850.
yes.
I missed whatever it was you were trying to tell us.
Okay.
Is that with including health benefits that you don't take? Is that what you're saying?
That includes the opt-out that I get for health benefits.
but that's for full salary, correct?
That's full-time salaried plus that 3,600 for the opt-out benefit for the year. So that includes both the salary and the opt-out benefit. So that was in the original budget. The approved budget includes, I think we did an average of 35 hours a week, so about 121,200 with an average of 35 a week at that same mid-range pay rate plus the opt-out. And then what I did is I looked at, okay, the midpoint of the salary scale is $63.70 an hour. So that's that next row down. And so if you go down to Courtney's proposal, I'm proposing $65 an hour at 30 hours a week, puts my annual salary at 101,400 plus the opt-out benefit for a total compensation of 105. And when I shared this with my attorney, she told me I was an idiot because I'm doing more work for less money. And I said, I'm a community member too. So I think that that's an important part of this conversation. My current contract is listed below that. I'm at $113,999 as an exempt full-time employee with the opt-out benefit. So right now my total annual compensation is $117,600 basically. The board has a couple options. I will tell you, if the board says 57, we're going to start you at the start of that range, I'm going to say no. I'm not doing that. I've got 20 years of public sector experience and a master's degree, and I've been here 5 years. I don't think that's fair to me as a professional. And so, I said 65. I'm happy to talk about it, but I can't start where I was as an intern at the City of Bend 20 years ago. I can't do that for my family. So that's where I'm at. The board has multiple options, and my job is to give you all of the options. So you can leave my existing contract in place, which is good through June 30, 2026. And that puts the total compensation to 117. You can negotiate with me on that hourly salary, and we can come to some agreement and sign the amendment number 3 to the contract. Or you can move forward with separating without cause. Those are the options.
Looking at putting you on hourly for the next 3 months until we open back up, and then aren't you going back to salary? Isn't that the plan?
That wasn't my understanding. I thought I was going to hourly for the rest of my contract.
Well, that wasn't my understanding. I thought we were making these cuts and these reductions for the summer. Was that not what you understood?
I thought, I didn't think it was just for the summer. I thought it was for the entire. That.
And we're gonna open up the pool in September with only 5 on staff.
Because we're bringing those people back, aren't we?
Well, we would hire to staff appropriately,
Right.
but what I understood was that she was 30 hours until we could adjust the budget
Yes.
to put her back
Yes.
to full time.
And
So whether that's the end of summer or January or never, then that was my understanding.
And the staffing plan for fall includes potentially hiring back a couple seasonal staff to backfill when we have staff that are out, but we have sufficient staff to staff the proposed hours as they are with us at those 30 and 20 maximums.
And that's including the swim team here
Mhm.
and our water, going back to what our mission is, the water aquatic.
Swim lessons,
Yes.
aquatics fitness, family time, lap swim, all the things for those 3 hours that were open. Yep.
Yes, I totally missed that, you guys. I thought we were just making this reduction for the 3 months. And that at the end of the
Well,
3 months, we could go back to this salary position.
What I heard throughout the discussion was that we were being very conservative with our budgeting through the summer. And at the end of summer, we would look where the budget was and make another determination on how many hours, salaries, all that
Yes.
kind of stuff.
Yes.
That's,
So this is, so this is to pay you more money, correct?
no, paying her less.
Well, we are paying her less right now, $57 now, but you want more, correct, for your contract?
So my current contract hourly is $54, I think. So what I'm requesting is the board adopted a wage scale for the first time in March, because we didn't have a wage scale prior to that. And because that salary study and wage scale came out to what it is, based on my experience, I do think I need a pay adjustment, is what I would say.
So The other thing that we need to make sure is that by going to 30 hours a week, her overall compensation that she costs the district is less than what her current contract is. By $12,000 on this compensation.
I don't see how we can expect her to work 30 hours a week come September. When we get back up and running. I believe our executive director would need to be a 40-hour back on salary come September.
Well,
I
but
think,
if situation is such that that's predicting what the future is. So if,
Well, we know that we're gonna open back up in the future.
But
but we don't know that it's going to be September.
Yeah.
Because the boiler may blow or the pool liner falls out.
That's the plan.
and I can tell you, with us being open from 3 to 6, which is the current budgeted amount, I can do 30 hours a week. And I'll be here I'm always gonna be here while we're open. If we extend those hours anymore, we're definitely gonna need more budget authority, and I'm definitely gonna need more hours. But for what we have proposed for our public facing hours, I'm comfortable with what we have. In addition, there's money in the budget to hire a consultant to help us figure out the path forward. So that's not part of what I need to work on. Because the board chair, and I presume the board chair and vice chair will work with that consultant to work with the county or the city, whatever the partners are. And I will be plugged in, but I won't be responsible for it. Now, if we didn't have that consulting money in there, I would say, no, I gotta be full time. But because we have that consulting capacity, I'm comfortable with 30 hours with the current schedule that we have proposed.
But you know what it looks like? It looks like we're giving you a raise.
Yeah.
That's what it looks like. When you look at this employee wage pay scale and you going from the 118 to the salary of 57, because we've cut your hours down to hourly,
Mhm.
but now we're gonna give you a raise, you're gonna be working less hours, but still making.
Mhm.
That's what it looks like.
Yes.
Well,
Yeah.
But overall, we're costing the district less.
You have the option of leaving my contract as is. Or you have the option of but I'm not going to agree to an amendment that doesn't put me where I feel like I belong on the wage scale.
So I would like to propose something. One of the constant criticisms is the disconnect and the wages we're paying with the public.
Yeah.
And I would like to direct her, if the board agrees, to update the job description to everything she does. From meeting with Sam for an hour to lifeguarding occasionally, all this, everything she does. And put it out for applicants. And see if we can get somebody as qualified that will work for less money. The position would be starting June or July.
It would be July 1, 2026, which is when my contract is done.
Are you serious?
Very
Very, you wanna put that out there as if Courtney's not gonna be working anymore?
well, that isn't what I said.
Oh,
If we do not get a qualified candidate.
Yeah.
Then she continues to work.
So if we get a qualified candidate, we hire them and get rid of Courtney and go.
But I could be the qualified candidate. What if I apply? I could be
Yeah,
the qualified
that's
candidate.
exactly what I'm saying. She's
But-
doing this job.
Right.
The public is complaining that
Some members of the public.
not all the public, there are some very dedicated naysayers, say it that way, that for many reasons. And we continually tell the public that we have a great deal here. We have a great executive director, talented. I don't know how many of us or people in Central Oregon could do this.
well, I've done.
No, you're absolutely right. He
So
does a great job and it's nothing against Courtney, but I cannot give her a raise. I cannot say, and it's nothing against you, Courtney, at all. You do a fantastic job. But with what the community has voted, we don't have the votes. And then we want to give her a raise, which will look like a raise. Yes, she does a lot. Ooh, I cannot justify it. We're not open.
We're not.
We're not
giving her-
open right now.
We're not giving her salary by $15,000.
But when they see 57 to 63 for the 30 hours, right?
Yeah.
So, no,
Okay,
we can't. I can't in good conscience say yes, give her a raise because of what the budget constraints we have.
I'd rather-
We are
I'd rather-
open. Yeah. Yeah, we're not open. Look,
I
we're not
understand.
open. So we can't give more money to people if we're not open. And
We're
like
not
I said,
giving more money.
it's nothing against you, Courtney. You do a great job. I don't want you to think that I'm attacking you at all. I don't want you to think that. But I can't do it.
Okay, so then what we have here is if we don't give her a raise, she goes back to her 40-hour contract. And at the end of the year, at the end of June 1 or 31 or whatever the heck it was, we can't renew her contract because she'll want a raise.
Right.
So then we have to start the job applicant process, which will take 4 to 6 months, or we'll be without a director.
Okay.
So
And then
Either way.
save that much,
either
Right.
way,
but
we need to start a job
We
application.
don't save money because we have to hire local
to.
Which is always more expensive.
Yeah.
Interim consultants always more expensive.
We did do that. I would just as soon leave the contract and everything the way it is.
Okay, and then direct her to update her job description and put it out for a job application.
Okay, question. So Frank, are you entertaining something like we just posted on the website, or are you entertaining
No,
a full job search? That
North
is
American job
expensive.
search.
That is expensive.
So we do it now or we do it 6 months from now.
A quality job search is incredibly expensive to do. And me personally, as someone who has been on a job hunt before, I struggle with a disingenuous job posting.
It is not disingenuous. Because either way, she has to reapply. Or at the end, if we leave her contract the same, she's going to find other employment and we will still have to have the job search.
This has to be decided tonight. right? Yes.
The board could choose to hold a special meeting after the attorney finishes doing his stuff with it. So you could decide to hold a special meeting next week or the. Yeah.
So Janelle, right now we have an amendment that has not been finalized by legal counsel. Jeremy advised he needs either tomorrow or Friday to finish that up, and we do not have a dollar amount put in for the wage. So as of right now, we do not have an executable amendment. Right now, the board is discussing what that dollar amount needs to be. And then we will get confirmation from council on the other
Which,
well, yeah, potentially non-substantive changes, but
so can we submit this with, can we defer the dollar amount on there? Or do we need to decide right now whether we're going to try and retain her services and put her back to 40 hours and then adjust the budget up because it'll cost us more money?
I mean, we can do anything. If we don't have an amendment to the contract, Courtney stays under her existing contract.
Okay.
If we don't have a signed contract by Courtney, Courtney stays under her existing contract. Or sorry, a signed amendment to the contract, Courtney stays under her existing contract.
Okay, and then you have to redo the budget.
My current contract compensation is 117,600, and the budget is approved budget has 121. So there's budget authority for my existing contract.
I personally would rather. I can't vote for what appears to be a raise. I would rather she stayed doing the 40 hours a week, because I know she's gonna be working the 40 hours a week. I would just assume she stayed with her contract as it is, but either way we go, it's political suicide. I was under the, I missed something in that budget or that executive session. I thought we were making this cut just for the summer while we were closed, and that Courtney would go back to her contract come September when we open the pool back up. So, my bad. I missed that. So should we table it?
We can absolutely table it. I would just, caution the board, what are you tabling it for? What is the decision? What inputs do you need in order to revisit? Just throwing that out there.
I'm with the same thing. It looks like a raise. Yeah,
Well,
I don't think we can have it. I mean, it didn't pass. I can understand giving you a raise, and even if it did pass, I would vote no on the raise until we got the pool up and going a year and everything's going good. I wouldn't just give the money and then say, oh, get a raise. Even then, I wouldn't do it. I would vote no. So, and like I said, nothing against you,
Understood.
but,
I would also,
you can't even get this path here and then to what appears to be a raise.
It's like throwing another stick on the fire.
Yeah,
I would advise the board that you adopted a wage scale that my current contract is not on. So I just,
Your current contract is not on the wage scale that we just adopted?
correct. Well, that you adopted in March, or the one you just, the one you just adopted it,
Then why is that?
because my current wage is 114 and the wage scale starts at 118.
Well, how did we make that mistake?
So I
No answer to that? How did we make that mistake?
the answer is that the board did a salary study and adopted a wage scale effective July 1 based on the salary study. The answer to that is your executive director is been underpaid from the day they started. I mean, that's the answer. When you look at the compensation of all the past directors, your current director is severely underpaid compared to all the folks before them who were completely underqualified and doing things inappropriately.
We all get that,
So,
Courtney.
no, I know. So I'm just saying that's the answer, is your executive director is undercompensated for the skills and the experience they bring to the job. That's how we have the situation that we're in.
This most recent wage thing that we adopted in March, I thought it mirrored your,
No, it does not.
and that's what I say, how did we do that?
Because the wage study came back at 118 to 147. So that's how that happened.
speak up again. One of the constant things that I had heard from the loud people or the concerned people is that we should, the people involved with the management and operations of the MAC district should voluntarily take wage cuts, should cut their hours. We need to get more volunteers. All these things where is basically an abuse of fine employees.
Mhm.
And if the community does not support doing the right thing with our employees, then we shouldn't have employees. And it's as simple as that. the perception of a raise that isn't really a raise because it's costing the math. You know, they're gonna see it that way. I thought if we did the job applicant search and we couldn't find anybody, maybe that would help sway a few people one way or another. But being an employee myself for, oh crap, a long time, I would not accept an employer telling me I had to work more hours for less money for the good of his.
Yeah.
So, we can either do the right thing and feel good about what we did, and then the community can tell us yay or nay, or we can continue to use our bullets. That's how I.
Well, I don't see it as abusing our employees because sometimes when organizations get in trouble, there has to be wage cuts. Okay, I've taken them before at Brightwood. I've taken a 5-7% wage cut. And then when things get better,
Mhm.
I'm back up to my salary. So I completely get that. I've been there. So,
Well-
and I swallowed it and went on. Okay, but I don't. I'm still gonna tell you no. Yeah, I'm just saying.
You're a firm no vote. I've heard that a lot out there.
Yeah.
Unfortunately,
It is.
it's hard to compare a special district to a business because in this case, they don't make money.
Right.
Yeah, Bragwood's gonna
Yeah.
make money, so it's not comparing apples to apples that way.
But I was just comparing the wage cut.
Yeah.
Hard times, things like that.
As being an employee for so long, having the owner, in this case, the community, say for our benefit, you need to take a wage cut or you need to volunteer more hours. That is not,
I don't think anybody said volunteer.
Oh, yeah.
oh, yeah. Oh, yeah,
Oh, volunteer more hours and not get paid.
they want,
I don't agree with that.
That she needs to be a public servant and
Yeah.
work more hours as a volunteer.
Yeah, no.
And we need to have volunteers in here
Yeah.
working as like,
yeah, we can't. I mean,
No, I agree with that. We can't have that.
65 hours a week, there's a lot of time left over to volunteer.
yeah, exactly.
My question, the same topic, but maybe a little different. I wanna know who was making $169,000 and who was making $60,000.
Contracted service.
That was when we,
2019.
Interns are very expensive.
that was Gary Barn,
Oh,
Very expensive.
smoke.
he worked for.
And in 2021, 160.
If you go back on that chart. So, trying to look up something, you go back on that chart, it's been more than 10 years. Since somebody was paid less than our current rate. And. Patronage is up, memberships are up,
And she.
participation is up.
Oh, I
The
get
pool is closed, that's what
that,
they're gonna
but
say, but the pool
we're
is
not
closed.
open. I know she does a great job. I know she's doing a good job.
But the pool being closed is not our decision.
Right?
It was the community, not even the community that had this discussion. It was 1,200 voters.
Majority of the voters, yeah.
The 1,200, but the other, what, 4,000, 6,000 voters?
Didn't vote.
Yeah, didn't vote, didn't care.
Yeah.
So, I mean. Yeah, I think those that did vote cared and said no, and if we don't right the ship is gonna sink.
The party's proposal actually saves us money. But I think it'd be political suicide,
Yeah.
and I think leaving her where she is, even though it costs us a little more money. I think we need her 40 hours a week, whether we're open or closed. Cause I know there's a lot to be done here this summer.
Oh, yeah.
And with staff taking vacations, and like right now, we got 2 out sick, that just puts the burden on everybody else that's here.
But that proposal was for 30 hours a week to save money so we can get to the fall. Isn't that what they voted on that one? So if you add more hours, more pay, that's taken away from that.
Well, then the 65 an hour
Here.
is where we need to answer to save some money. But because of the way this is shown, like it says executive director 118 starting salary, and that wasn't even the starting or the salary. So it's the perception. Why did, yeah, we had this out there and it was wrong. So probably, maybe that's part of the issue we had where everybody seemed to come up with a different number as to what we pay our executive director. How many different numbers do we have out there on? You know, anyone would go to this wage scale because it's on the website and they'd say, oh, well, you're paying them 118,000 a year. But we weren't. Right?
They thought if it was over 85, that
Yeah.
was too much. So the $4,000.
Is that correct? You were only at 114?
Mhm.
And then the
last year?
opt-out, yeah, takes it to 118,
Yeah.
or took it, takes it.
And the opt-out is you paying your own insurance and we pay you so much and just opt out.
Mhm.
Yeah. So-
Mhm.
So, I don't know. But. Yeah, it's tough, but I'm still, however you cut it, I'm gonna vote no.
Well, let's say you have a few options. Someone could throw out a motion and see where it lands. And then if it doesn't pass, throw out another motion and see where it lands. So you could go that path. You could do a straw poll rather than doing official motions. You can set up a special meeting for next week, if you feel there's more information that's needed to make the decision. You could just decide to not do anything and leave it as the current contract, because even though the board made a motion to reduce me to hourly and 30 hours, it doesn't go into effect unless my contract's amended.
Yeah.
So no action, just leaves my current contract in place until June 30, 2026.
And Courtney's a full-time exempt employee at her current pay rate.
So if we can't come up with an agreement, let me just ask.
Mhm.
If we can't come up with an agreement. And you don't sign the contract, what are you gonna do?
Well, there's two options. I'm just gonna keep working under my current contract.
Not here, say you're not working for us, where are you gonna go?
I'm gonna consult, which is what I was doing before I started this job. And in that scenario, the board would have to terminate me without cause.
Which includes.
Mhm.
I'll make a motion, we'll see where it lands. I make a motion that we leave Courtney's position and contract as it was and keep it through 2026. We let her do what she needs to do this summer, and we hope when we open in September, things are much better.
So in effect, no change.
In effect, no change.
And that's still the $57 an hour, right? Or,
But my current contract is 114 salary plus the 3,600. So it's 117.
Okay.
Something.
that's not the reduction in. Right?
No, that leaves everything.
We didn't.
That's
vote on it.
leaving,
That was a reduction in hours, not a reduction in salary, hour pay. Yes.
At the end of the day, the checkbook says she's getting paid less with the 30 hours.
Yeah,
Okay, so there's a motion on the table. Is there a second?
and that's at 40 hours.
keep her contract as it is, yeah. Salaried.
Yeah.
No changes. A second, that one dies, somebody else is up.
If we did the contract at the higher amount, do we have to do a contract for a longer period of time or could it be through the fall? Like a 3-month contract?
We've discussed that. And it was the discussion among the board, from what I remember, was we were going to get through the summer. The budget had been developed conservatively. But we're gonna get through the summer and then like our September meeting or something, gonna review the finances
Yeah.
and see if we could open more or we could do this or serve the public better.
It was a discussion for another day. In effect.
The answer is you could do an amendment that's limited in
Set
duration.
period of time. I just wondered about an amendment for a set period of time to change her salary to reflect this decrease in how much we're paying overall
Just
for the summer months until we get open back up again and could go back to her current contract that goes through 26.
Okay, I have a question, because if we're balancing out to the pay she's at now, why bother? Because quite frankly, then she's limited, sorry, Courtney.
No, you're
She's
fine.
limited in hours and we're paying the same amount. So if we're paying the same amount, why not keep her at full-time exempt? So we're benefiting from Courtney and her full capacity.
I thought Janelle was headed towards the 57 just for the summer.
Yeah.
Just
that's
for
what
the summer.
Oh.
So we show a cost savings.
I'm sorry, I thought you were going the other way.
And I won't agree to 57 per hour. Because I feel like I do not belong at the beginning of the pay scale. I belong at the middle of the pay scale. Frank over there doing math.
I think so.
We started this conversation with me saying, I love my job. I want to
Yeah.
be here. I'm not trying to be a pain.
No.
I have to protect my family. I have to protect myself.
Yep.
And I love this district and I'm trying to also protect the district and balance all the things. So
I kind of agree with Jean because this 12,000.
But that's for the year, and we're just talking about 3 months. If we go with what you suggested, what's the actual loss that you would lose for the 3 months, Courtney?
at what?
At the 57, which is published.
57 times 30 times 52.
That's while she's working the 30-hour week.
Yes, while she's working the 30
I
hours.
was trying to wrap my head around it.
Times 3. 22 to 30 over 3 months. 114 times 3. So that's a $6,000 loss for me
For this stuff.
over 3 months. And I won't agree to that.
Gosh, Courtney, you're putting us between a rock and a hard
I know,
place.
I'm sorry.
sure there's staff out here that would like to have a raise too.
I'm sure there are staff that would say, pay Courtney what she's worth because we don't want her to leave, is what I would say to that, because we've all been talking about this all week. So
How do we get the public's trust back on our side?
I read something recently that said,
Tell me it wasn't on social media.
no,
Okay.
no.
There.
I read something recently from a leader in public service that said, when you start to legislate and govern from a place of fear of social media, that's when you make decisions that are not in the best interest of the long-term health of your public agency.
Well said.
And it resonated with me.
Mhm.
And part of my job is to try and make decisions every day for what's in the best long-term health of the agency. And people do not care about the long-term health of the agency. They want what they want right now. And so I'm always going to be hated for making decisions that are not popular in the moment, but do a lot more for the long term. And our community is used to executive directors that will bend over and do anything that anybody wants so that they can be popular. And that is why everyone hates me right now. And when I say everyone hates me, it's a small, loud group, because when I'm out talking to leaders in our community, they appreciate what we're trying to do. So it frustrates me that we make decisions based on a loud minority of people who don't understand our business, think they can run this place better than this board and I can. And I frankly am over it. So I feel like no matter what the board does, people are going to be angry. And so if I'm in your position, I'm doing what's going to keep things going. But that's also me being biased because of the way I feel about the work that I get to do. So.
Well, I would second Jean's motion.
Would you like to make a
I
new
thought it was
motion?
done.
Because the motion died. Would you like to make a new motion?
I'll make a motion to leave the current contract where it is. and
Perfect.
Continue her on. Her
Okay.
contract.
Is there a second?
Now, is this the current contract, the 57 or
This is Courtney
What?
full-time exempt.
full-time
Yep.
exempt, 40 hours a
Current,
week?
yep, current pay rate, no changes.
Nothing
Would basically,
changes, but the executive director has 3 months.
okay,
Just telling.
motion has been made and seconded.
Yep.
Jean seconded.
Jane seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay,
You got.
any opposed?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, motion passes. I think that's where we're gonna end up because we weren't going to come to an agreement, so that's what we would have had anyway.
It'll save us money on attorney's fees.
This is true.
That's true.
For all of us.
Attorney's fees, we're looking at getting a new attorney.
We are getting a new attorney.
July 1.
Yep.
When does that happen?
IGA is in progress. Yes,
But not done yet,
not done yet.
but once a month.
No, which is, yes, one of the many reasons we are very excited. But yeah, July 1st.
So for the record, my reasoning on wanting to, I'll say it again, and say, leave Courtney the 40 hours is that we weren't gonna be saving any money. She's still gonna be working the 40 hours.
Yeah.
And she should be compensated for it. The public would not understand the $6,000
I've already been.
And I-
approved
that we thought
Yeah.
we were gonna save in December.
Right. No, I get that, and I understand she does a great job. It's not against that, but the pool is not open.
That's like
Which-
tomorrow,
which-
she apply. Right,
The pool is not open. You're,
Figure,
yeah. And what happens when those solutions don't materialize?
Physically closes.
Exactly.
It's headed down that path and has been for the last 15 years. Truthfully.
No, I agree with you, but it's,
about what Redmond's
this
about to
is
start
gonna
to.
be suicide. And this will never pass.
Well, it already didn't. There's no way you're ever gonna get that 65 cents back on the ballot ever.
You say it's never going to pass, but we're doing exactly the same thing that we've been doing last year. And it didn't pass. It's closed more.
Now, we tried to do everything we could. to
I
make it pass.
understand, but thing is,
I mean,
If-
because,
we have to do something different to get a different result, and we're
Right.
not.
absolutely. So.
So
What,
that's why I said, let's do the job search, because we're gonna need,
what's the path forward?
But who's
Well,
fielding the
apparently-
job search?
Hmm?
Who's managing the job search?
Us. I've done it.
you won't,
I won't.
you won't be here.
Yeah. I can tell you, I have been part of an organization that lost its executive director. Took a very long time to find an interim who was incredibly expensive, not very well qualified. I had to serve as interim executive director. As a board member.
Yeah, we have.
For
to do it here.
months.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is a very difficult position to be in.
Do we want to be in that position on July 1 of 26, or do we want to anticipate? That, and when you say a search is incredibly expensive. What are you talking about? Five?
I can tell you,
10,
the city is tens of thousands of dollars.
Oh.
Yeah. City pays tens of thousands of dollars to
Okay.
recruit for
What's the
positions.
50,000
Yeah.
for one position?
So in terms of timing, we'll start the conversation probably in January, February, if the board wants to consider another contract for me. And at that point, if the board says, no, we want to go out and search, then you would start that. So you would still, it wouldn't be July 1 where you think, oh boy, we don't have a director. That conversation would start earlier than that.
I
And
think 5 months would be enough. Okay.
Yeah.
The Google, I think it's gonna be.
All right, okay, so we have,
there's one more item on your agenda.
trying to find that. Next up on our agenda, considering approval of fiscal year 2025-26 intergovernmental agreement, IGA with Jefferson County 509J School District.
So,
I have a question first, backing us up a little bit on 11C. Consider approval of amendment 3. do we need to vote that we're not?
No, it's dead.
It's dead.
Yeah.
Okay,
There is no amendment to Courtney's contract right now.
okay.
I would say the board may want to make a motion to cancel out actions taken on 11A and B. Since you left me,
Well, we can't though, because we struck out the rec salary
Oh.
position on that as well.
maybe just B. Maybe just 11B. Because you did say you thought we should leave the salaries on there as well, so they're still on there, but
Yeah,
you want to keep my job description as salaried instead of hourly. So maybe rescind the motion on 11B and then vote on that. Thank
Is there
you.
such a motion to rescind action taken on 11B?
So moved.
Thank you, Janelle. Is there a second?
second.
Thank you, Jean. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Yes. Good catch, Jean. Okay, back to fiscal year 2025-26 IGA with Jefferson County 509J School District.
So the IGA is exactly the same as last year. Our cost recovery policy that the board adopted is consistent with the fees that they were paying for swim lessons last year. Their rental fees did go up, as noted in the addendum to the appendix to the agreement. So the hourly rental fee went up as well as the swim meet rentals went up, but swim lessons stayed the same. We left all the language in about us being able to use their facilities in case something changes throughout the year. And so there's really no change except for some of those fees increasing for rentals.
And then this is just the agreement with the school about swim team or swim club, swim team.
Swim team, and then also their classes using our facility for parties and stuff like that. Yep,
And their swim lesson that they act like third grade or second grade.
second grade.
Second grade.
Yep.
I read through that the other day, and doesn't it also address our using their facilities, the gymnasiums and things?
Yes.
Clean up. They're supposed to clean up before they leave here. and
Yep.
stuff. Yeah. I wondered if there was any changes within it. It's the same.
No, it's just the fee schedule is a little bit different.
Questions, or would anyone care to make a motion?
I'll make a motion that we approve the 2025-26 intergovernmental agreement with Jefferson County 509J School District.
Thank you, Jean. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Frank. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Executive Director Report.
This is a fun one. Becky, you're. So what's going well? On the last day of fitness classes, our Misfit the Beast class participants got to go down the water slide. And it was a riot. I got to guard the slide pool. They had a,
Penny in the bottom.
it is penny at the bottom. They had a lot of fun. So
Single fitness participant in my class who don't. Even if they were scared to death of that,
yeah.
they went down at least.
I can tell you that thing moves quickly, or you move quickly on that thing.
Although some of them got to the bottom and went. It was entertaining.
Moment for me.
Yeah. It was wonderful. And then the other piece in my update is just some legislative updates from the Special Districts Association of Oregon. There's some pieces of legislation that they're watching, especially now as we get to the end of this long legislative session. And there's quite a few things that could impact us if they pass, whether it's positively or negatively. So they're looking at establishing a task force on the impacts of measures 5 and 50. There's a lot of public organizations that are struggling to make ends meet with the impacts that those two measures have on property taxes. So that's just a task force. It's nothing that's going to make any changes immediately. There's also some other property tax related measures providing exemptions or discounts for seniors and then disabled veterans and their spouses. There's a bill that mandates that public bodies provide public comment period at the start of the public meeting. So we have ours pretty much close to the start. Some public bodies put it at the end to discourage people so this bill would require everyone to have it at the beginning. There's another bill defining work sessions and mandating public comment for meetings where a vote will be taken. So if they define work sessions as a place where a vote can't be taken, then you don't have to do public comment during work sessions, but you do during business meetings. So there's just a lot of bills around that because of all the new public meeting laws that were adopted in the last legislative session. There's a Senate bill creating the crime of threatening a public official. It's in the Rules Committee because it passed the Senate with amendments and the House is now considering it. There's a number of bills related to the Government Ethics Commission, investigations into ethics or lobbying laws being extended by up to 60 days, removing the prohibition of gifts of over $50 to public officials, and extending the time frame for written grievances. So we have policies around public records that would have to be amended if these things passed. Some things that have already passed, the big one that the Oregon Recreation Association's been working on is the recreational immunity bill, and that has been signed by the governor. And then there's another bill that allows employees to use sick leave for blood donation. So that's something that's not in our employee policy. So we'll be updating that for that January 1st implementation. So those are just some of the ones that we're following through SDAO. And that's my report.
Okay, board member,
I'm sorry. What is the recreational immunity? What is?
Yeah, so essentially what happened is someone was walking on a path to a beach with their dog and they tripped and broke their ankle and they sued. And the Supreme Court of the state struck down immunity for the property owner. And so everyone in Park and Rec panicked and said, well, so if they were recreating just walking to the park, does that mean we have to close anything does that mean if somebody's walking from their car on the street into the building that they're recreating already, even though they're on their way to recreate? And it sort of threw this whole thing into question. And there were a bunch of Park and Rec districts looking to shut down all of their walkways and because they wouldn't be covered, they wouldn't be immune from being sued. So this bill fixed it. Now until someone else sues and then they, go through that whole process again. But that's what that bill is about.
Okay.
And everybody in the Park and Rec community was freaked out about it. So yeah. Yeah.
They fall and.
all right, any board member highlights?
I propose that we use this little time frame for you to take us and show us the black mold and show us what you guys have already.
It's
done. So we create our own highlight this evening.
So we already painted and sealed off the black mold, so that I have pictures of it if you guys
Oh,
want to
you
see
have
it.
pictures of it?
Yeah. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, we sealed it up as soon as we saw it.
So
That's the wall we're gonna take down. Isn't it?
It's one of the
It's one of
walls.
those, yes.
Yeah,
Still have to cover it up. But what?
Right.
yep, yeah.
Correct. Yeah, we don't want it where
It
we
was
can actually
a
smell.
quick trip to Ace to get the kills, cover it up.
So I don't know if you guys remember the meeting where Deanna made the comment, if you don't stay within your 3 minutes, I'm gonna get the gong and the hook.
Yeah.
And so to honor her at her last board meeting, we want to present her with a gong and a hook and thank her for her service on the board.
How many years?
5,
5 years?
5, yeah. Yes. Longer than I lasted lap swimming, but yes.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
No, I noticed when I came in the door, things are torn out, so I'd like a little.
Yeah.
Just a little,
Do you want to
like, what's
adjourn the
all
meeting?
this
for
Yeah.
junk and-
You want to do that and then adjourn, or do you want to adjourn and then do that?
Let's adjourn and then do that.
It happens next Tuesday, yeah.
So this is just something that I want to bring up, those kind of meetings where you're going and discuss, even though it's not a quorum or anything, should that be discussed briefly amongst us and then we say go ahead?
Well, it's not that the board would tell us not to go ahead because we're just going on a fact finding mission. I mean, it doesn't need to be like, we give you permission to go talk to somebody about potential pool districts.
Nothing's
Yeah.
being signed, it's just conversations at this point, and then they could come
Yeah.
back after the fact and share with the board.
Okay,
And that's what you're gonna talk about, see, if they possibly want to take it over, make a district, is that,
Well,
that's the gist of the thing.
specific things that would happen. So I think the only approach that we could take at this point would be an IGA with the county.
Right.
To run like the facility side, HR. We've approached them with this idea multiple times in the past, including with the interim director that was here well before Courtney, and they have not been interested in the past. But we haven't ever taken board members there, so I think that's an important, and we're in a different spot. I also think it's important to put it on public record that we went and had a group discussion. They're sending though from the city and then one of their commissioners,
Mark,
Mark Wunsch is gonna be there, with Jack Rasmussen. And then Jean and I and Courtney, to discuss.
no Courtney.
I can't be there at the time.
My question is, I'd like to see in black and white, what could we save if we fell under that umbrella, you know? We use the same software, or not the same software, but the same support, Covenant Technologies. Would we save on our insurance umbrella with staff? Throw out some ideas. Maybe they've got some ideas to toss back at us.
what's our multiplier? Our liability for our workers' comp.
For workers' comp? You've asked me this twice and I don't know the answer.
Well, if-
But I have the bill in my office, so I can tell you.
So that, since they're two independent things, the multiplier, actually, if they combined, it would combine under the worst multiplier.
For
So,
workman's comp.
For
I was thinking
workman's
more of the insurance,
well, that's
our,
liability or
the medical.
facility,
Health insurance.
oh, the employee cost.
Yeah.
I think though, but if that was something that was gonna have a long term, it would still have to go back out and vote at some point. So I think the proposal would be trialing it as an IGA type approach to see how it goes, so they can test the waters, and then long term, if it worked out, see if they wanted to go to the community version. I don't know how to agree.
Oh. Well, that's bad.
Just thinking towards the future,
Trying.
I remember some suggestions coming up about YMCA. It's this YMCA is a national organization, would they be something that would look into serving a district like this?
They have to have a certain population.
Yeah.
Percent.
Maybe we should check it out.
Did
Fact finding,
online. Oh, you wanna go to Illinois?
yeah.
Hey, put in a budget.
Oh, jeez.
They're still quite popular, I mean. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, if it was a great idea, maybe Ben would have had a YMCA thing, Ben Redmond. Right, I mean, there's a reason they don't,
Well, they've got.
They have tons of money.
Support
Yeah.
their special districts,
they do,
yeah.
yeah.
Okay, then if there is nothing else for the board meeting, I will adjourn at 7:19.